Good day. Today, my lecture will be about business process excellence, giving at the level of the strategic target of the organization. This is based on the book of business process technology. So, what our target for today is to discuss what are the possible change or looking at the perspective of the process in in your organization to improve competitive advantage. So what we will start with business process engineering as a concept. Here we have business process reengineering is encompasses the envisioning of new work strategies, the actual process design activity, and the implementation of the change in all its complex technological, human, and organizational dimension. The fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business process to achieve dramatic improvements in critical modern measures performance. So the idea of business process engineering is to re-engineer or to examine our existing process and propose something new that might help improve the organizational activities. So first, we have the concept of the process optimization, which is the process of modifying a business process to make some aspect of it work more efficiently or use fewer resources. As one of our target in strategic information system is that to reduce costs, that would be we need to examine our existing process to make it to have a competitive advantage as one way of achieving competitive advantage over our competitors. And we will define business process here as actually a process. It can be a process that or a series of activity within the organization to be able to produce a certain goal or objective for that particular functional area in business. So we have also the business process benchmarking as a concept. This is conducting an as-is analysis of existing business process and then comparing them to similar business processes of other companies that are considered to have outstanding performance and to eventually adopt best practices to optimize one's own business processes. This is the easiest way of improving the process, conducting, examining or comparing your business process to those companies that have better performance compared to yours or other companies that you've seen who already improving their process. So why were processes ignored for so long? Because our organizational structure for last 200 years have been based on task. Basically, the organization is organized based on task. The fundamental building block of the corporations was the functional department, essentially a group of people all performing a common task. That's why the organization is divided into human resources, we have accounting, financial. It's not based on process, but based on various functions. Not until the 1980s did companies begin focus on processes. So this is another way of viewing the organization. Instead of looking at on the part on its functional areas, we can look at also at the process. And I'm saying we don't need to modify the existing structure of the organization, on my own opinion, but we need to examine the interconnectedness of the various process within the organization to be able to achieve competitive advantage rather than looking at the task-based or the functional areas. So to compare with, a task is a unit of work or a business activity performed by one person. This is a common activity within the organization performed by someone. On a process, on the other hand, is a group of tasks that together create a result that is of value to customers. So we're looking here at the customer level of we ignore the different people working on a particular process in a particular task. So a process can be viewed as different steps or tasks also. The task here as a unit of business activity doesn't mean only one person, but also maybe one functional area of an organization such as human resource, finance, or accounting. So when you are a manager, you are managing by functions, you look at the organization this way. Example, research and development, production, marketing, and finance. So that's the traditional view of organization, and might be most of the organization are organized this way. This is the managing by process view, meaning we are looking at the different functions such as purchasing, new product, and manufacturing. And this perspective will look at encompassing of any functions. We look at the entire process. We are on the side of the customer or the side of our major outside stakeholders to look at the organization. So we ignore, example, if you're a student in the organization, or a classic example is our enrollment system. If you are a student, you're supposed to be not thinking about the different departments of the organization, especially if you are new. Example, if you want to enroll, your target is just to enroll. You don't need to understand that there are various process within the organization that needs to be done, such as paying tuition fee. If you need to pay tuition fee, you don't need to think of going to the cashier itself or going to your advisor. You want a simplified process for you based on the outcome that you want. So that's the perspective of the process perspective. And this course actually emphasizes that with our existing functional units, we need also to look at organizations on the process level to be able to improve our existing process. By looking at the process level, we hope to identify problems or understand more the perspective of our customer. Because by default, we look at the customer perspective, not with the internals of the organization. And the internals of the organization may be modified from time to time to be able to accommodate an event-based process, such as, for example, in IIT enrollment system. So there are various requirements techniques that need to be examined, or requirements for changing the existing process of the organization. We will start with business process automation. The idea of automating a process within the organization doesn't change basic operations. So we just need to identify the existing process and change it. That's analysis of as is and to be processed. And the target here is to automate some of the operations. And to be able to perform well, or to be able to have a good output on business process automation, we need to have business process automation techniques such as problem analysis and root cause analysis. And I hope majority of you are already familiar with what problem analysis and root cause analysis. But to review, later. We will discuss the details of it later. And we also have business process improvement changes. So if we want to achieve business process automation, we just need to convert the existing process such as manual into electronic one. For business process improvement changes, this is a BPI, how an organization operates, changes operation with new techniques, can improve efficiency and effectiveness of the organization. At a higher level, after business process automation, we can look at business process improvement changes. And there are also analysis techniques that needs to be done for BPI, and the other one later. So to give you the business process automation perspective, the problem analysis is to identify problems with the as system and to describe how to solve them in the to be system. This is focused on efficiency and ease of use and not on the monetary value. So if you look at the problem analysis, what we are doing actually here is just converting the existing process into electronic ones. And it's automatic that it will determine only the solution. So this is a solution perspective on improving the process. We look at the old system and find new solutions, so somehow using technology or other techniques to be able to improve the existing process. Another technique is the root cause analysis, because the previous process, which is the problem analysis, is automatically looking at the solution part. The root cause. This is the root cause analysis. Root cause analysis actually focuses also on the root cause of the problem rather than just identifying the solution itself automatically. So it focuses on problems, not solution, and try to solve the root cause of the problem. And it can be done through frameworks such as, or to be assisted by diagrams such as this fishbone diagram here, and or this one is a decision tree diagram, and there are also others such as Pareto analysis. What else the other? We have also the 5 whys of root cause analysis. For business process improvement, if we want to implement a business process improvement within the organization, you might perform the three of these problem identification or analysis. Although I'm not saying that you cannot do root cause analysis or problem analysis in the business process improvement. But for business process improvement, it is much better to perform these various analysis. Number one is duration analysis. This requires a detailed examination of the amount of time it takes to perform each process in the current as-is system. So this is a challenging task for some of us in the organization because it's not easy to implement duration analysis if there is no if it's not implemented in electronic ones. But I've encountered this one in the enrollment system of the De La Salle University, wherein once you enter into the room of the registration process, your paper will be noted with time, the time you enter, and each of the process that you will undergo will the secretary will write there the time you in, and so that they will determine the duration for each of the process. That's a good way of doing the duration analysis, but it's additional task to our staff or to our employees. But for the manual system, I think I cannot think of any better way to do the duration analysis. Why do we perform duration analysis? This is also to determine which process requires more time and which process actually causes the delay on the customer perspective. Second is the activity-based costing. So instead of duration analysis, you can do activity-based costing. This is similar to above, but the cost of which major process is examined rather than the time taken. So what is difficult also for activity-based costing is that it might also be dependent to duration analysis, but somehow there are alternative ways to determine, because in activity-based costing, we also compute the number of hours or the labor cost for each process. But here, it is much easier to determine the value because you can identify how many customers, for example, the employee has been processing, and divide it with the daily salary of your employee. So it is less challenging, but of course, you need to analyze also the details of the activity to be able to put certain costs on it. And lastly, you have informal benchmarking. You already introduced this some earlier. This refers to studying how other organizations perform a business process in order to learn how your organization can do something better. So in informal benchmarking, I think we have to take note 2 items here. Number one is that you are benchmarking to the organization that performs better or at par with your organization. And of course, you have to identify some learning items or lessons learned from them. And the second part of informal benchmarking is that you are also benchmarking to organization with the same nature of your organization, with the same structure or nature of your organization. So for instance, if you're an educational institution, we don't expect you to benchmark to manufacturing organization. And if you are also an educational institution or a higher education institution, be careful if you benchmark, for example, for private organization, if you're a government organization. Your informal benchmarking might not help or might confuse you more because other organization might have other regulatory requirements that you need to take note.